Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. This is your brother from another mother, Mark DeJesus, in the house, bringing you insights for your healing and freedom journey, especially when it comes to mental, emotional, and relationship health. So welcome. And I'm very excited to be able to celebrate the arrival of my latest book, which is The OCD Healing Journey, getting to the heart of our obsessive and compulsive struggles. This has not only been a labor of some intense work and documentation and writing and all of that, but this has really been decades in the making, because this flows out of my own journey, flows out of my own struggle, and it is also based on so much of the help that I've been able to bring to other people's lives to help us navigate this issue that infiltrates our thoughts and our thinking patterns. And I have to bring in awareness to people as well, too, because when I tell people, hey, I write about this, and this is a subject that I deal with, when people hear OCD, they kind of go into a certain little area. Oh, you're talking about neat freaks and people with cleanliness or germ phobes. And while that is a major part of the battleground, and certainly there's many people that express that's where it goes, it's just scratching the surface on where obsessive and compulsive patterns take people. And as I began to experience healing in my own life, I started to see, wow, I am noticing obsessive and compulsive patterns that are in a lot of people's lives. And it's not been addressed, it's not been talked about. And so it is an absolute delight. Thank you so much for all those of you who've ordered your copy, and on Amazon as of late, it's shown as #1 in pastoral counseling. It's so exciting. I mean, it's such an honor to see that, to see the support, to see the excitement around this. I know that it's still even sinking in of not only how God's using this, but how God will continue to use this. So today, my goal in this broadcast, and welcome everyone in the live chat, in the live feed that are watching this live, or those of you that are checking this out later, or those of you that are listening to this on our podcast feed, welcome. My goal today is to just be a tour guide. And I just want to navigate through the chapters and kind of the overview of the book, give you some perspectives so that if you haven't read it, you'll be able to go, okay, this is what I can anticipate. If you have, and there's some of you that are like, want to quickly just start reading it right away and get through it, then you may be able to echo and understand, because I like to give perspective. And when you sit down and write a book, there's a lot of path that unfold before you. And me as a teacher, I'm a teacher first. I explain things. I break them down. I bring perspective to things. And so I remember spending months and months and months before I even started producing videos on this subject. As many of you have come to this channel as a result of my obsessive compulsive focused material. And even before all that even happened, years ago, I sat down and I spent months. I had this big, I don't even know, maybe it's here somewhere. Maybe not. It was a big old journal. I don't think it's here. I might have it stowed away somewhere else, but it was a like letter-sized journal, so it was hardcover. And I just sat there for days and days and weeks and just documented. This is what I've seen. This is what I've learned over the years. This is what I have watched in people I've helped. And this is what I've learned in my life. And that became the incubator for the video material. And I was actually in plans on working on other book material. I'd had some other things in the making. And I came to a place where I was going to start moving forward with that other book material. And I just felt stuck. And so I said, let me just take a step back here and recalibrate what seems to be bubbling to the surface. And I said, you know what? It's time to write the book on OCD and what I've been helping people try to understand and work through and process through. So that once I saw that happen, the writing started opening up, and of course I'd already been doing tons of video content on that, and I knew I need to put a book in people's hands, because this is going to be an important place of recognizing what is involved in OCD and what the journey is going to look like. So up front, there's a couple things that I want to highlight about the OCD healing journey. The subtitle really brings out the Mark DeJesus flavor. You can get any number of books about OCD. Many of them are very, very helpful. They share a lot of great things. And what I find, though, is I find that books that get into mental health can sometimes get so heady and so in the chasing around all these different perspectives and things, and the diagnostics of it all, is I wanted to bring out the heart of the journey. Because number one, I want to bring out that it's a journey. In fact, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, many of my future books will probably, not all, but many of them will probably have the word journey in the title. So take your subject. If I write a book on it, it's probably going to have journey in it. Although in writing this book, I do sense that I may do some more perfectionism work, and because that's a big chunk of what I address in here. And I have something in the incubator that I'm going to be dealing with at some point in more extensive work on the subject of perfectionism. But that this is a journey. That's important to understand. Two is getting to the heart. And in a lot of what I'm going to share is learning to work through emotions, learning to work through how you relate to your thoughts. Because when people enter into recognizing they have obsessive compulsive patterns, they realize neuroticism, catastrophizing, ruminating. They realize all those things, right? And we're constantly jumping to fix things. We're constantly jumping to fix our thoughts. And we actually need to learn to reboot how we relate to our thoughts, how we relate to God, how we relate to ourselves, and how we relate to the world around us, how we feel safe. So I want to take us into a dive past the symptoms. Which, what are the symptoms? Whatever subject you spin about, that's your symptom. It's an obsessive symptom. And what I want to do, though, is I want to get to depth. Now, that actually takes time, and I'll mention that as I kind of navigate through the chapters a little bit. And again, this will just be overview, is getting into some of the distorted ways we approach a thought. So this is often what makes obsessive compulsive very troubling, is when you seek for help, you're seeking for help to answer a question where the question you're asking is coming out of distortions. So part of diving deeper is moving past the symptom and moving to the 7 distortions of how you relate to your thoughts. And underneath the distortions are areas of your heart that are needing aspects of God's love and healing work. That's not going to be a light switch experience. It's not going to be, oh, this happened and you're all better. Or even this mindset of, I'm completely healed and free, as though you don't have any more in your journey to learn and develop and uncover. What I want to do is I want to encourage a journey process. We're going to walk together and you're going to learn, and layers are going to be addressed. But we are in a society that, first of all, we hate mental health diagnosis. We feel very shameful for even going there. But then when it happens, it's like, okay, whether it's a diagnosis or whether you realize I've got anxiety, and no one needs to tell you that. You're like, okay, I got OCD patterns. We look for then a quick fix. And when we don't see the quick fix, we get very frustrated. And we feel like there's something wrong with us. And what I want to encourage people to take the journey. We're going to go walk some places. We're going to walk a trail. Some of the trails, the incline starts to go up. We're going to go through some curves. We're going to see some amazing scenery. Then we're going to go in through some valleys. And those valleys are going to be unfamiliar, but we're going to go through them anyways. And so I find that if you'll take if you'll take the invitation, it could be a huge, amazing help to your life and your journey. So without further ado, let's kind of take a little bit of a tour. When I write books, like any author, you typically start a book off with an introduction. And the introduction sets the stage for the rest of the book. And here is what I've discovered as an author. And it frightened me at first. It disturbed me. Speaking of disturbance, is that a lot of people skip the introduction. Now, if you go into any of my past books, I spend a lot of time on the introduction. I spend a lot of time putting stuff that's hard connected to help you understand where we're going and the importance of this issue to bring insight and illumination, just to know. Many people skip it. In fact, I remember talking to somebody who was asking me some questions about the book. We were having some dialogue for a podcast, and they said, I almost skipped the introduction of the book. And I went, wait, there's some important stuff there. And he said, I'm glad I didn't skip it. And I'm like, wow, people are skipping. This book is not to rush through anyway. This is a take your time. This is marinate on it. This is let the spices have their work. This is one sip at a time kind of process here. So I decided I'm dealing with OCDers. So we're not going to get an introduction. We're going to start with chapter 1, and it's going to have start here. So actually, when I first wrote this book, the script, chapter 1 was called Start Here. And over time, I added a little flavor. The journey starts here. Make it a little more colorful. But I got a little black and white. Just start here. Because I bring out, hit the ground running, and I share with you one of the darker nights and darker days in my process. And it was not good. It was not good. And so my goal, and to bring that out to you, was to bring out, it gets rough. OCD can lead into some really rough places. 2 is I didn't realize this was even OCD. I didn't realize that is even what I was battling. If you would have told me OCD, I would have said to you, nah, that's other people, And I didn't realize what was going on in my life. And so that first chapter lays the footing for the perspectives that were important for me to see. And I find are important for other people to see in their own journey as well. So when I get into chapter 2, I begin unfolding the nuts and bolts, because there's some explanation needed as to how OCD affects people. And one of the things I notice is that people, when they look up OCD, they want to find like their particular OCD. And there is like some subcategories, but I want to jump into the scenario and say, in all the psychological talk, OCD can attack any subject that of possible thought can be infiltrated by OCD. So we often want to chase that subject, work on that subject, and many people find that the subject jumps to other subjects. And so, but I do talk about some overall areas of where obsessions can hit, what it can look like, and then also the compulsion. What is a compulsion? What does it mean to be compulsive? And that's going to be an important place for you to learn. They're now beginning in chapter 2 in the disturbance of OCD. I do have questions, and I found that I try to create questions for discussion and questions for your journaling. So if you're just reading this by yourself, questions, this is for you to sit down and for you to journal. This is not for you to skip over. It's for healthy reflection. And then chapter 3 goes into the battleground of how OCD affected my life. Now, for everybody, it's going to have various pathways it's going to go. We all have the same root system, but the branches can go off into all kinds of directions. But again, the main avenues of what we struggle with are the same. And many people think, well, no, my battle is really, no, mine's different. So I lay out some important areas, especially how fear affected me, how it interfered with relationships, and then I give some tips. So along the way, there's going to be a lot of areas that I'll create as crumbs that I keep revisiting and revisiting and revisiting and looking at it in different ways so that we're understanding. That's why I want you to marinate on this. This is a slow crock pot experience. Now, before I move into the deeper areas up front, I give you in chapter 4, 10 common traps that hinder the OCD healing journey. These are the areas that will create challenges. They create roadblocks. They create interference for you to be able to work through what you're needing to work through. And I encourage you to take your time and see, do I have some of these patterns in my life? Because I felt like before we move forward, let's kind of address these, because OCDers are very repetitive. You go in cycles. You repeat the cycles. You don't realize you're repeating yourself. You don't realize, you may go, I know, but you actually don't know how much you are kind of repeating these cycles over and over and over again. And so it's important to then realize, which I go through in chapter 5. And this is something that I'm really bringing to the table when it comes to the mental health discussion, is that the problem is not the problem. The real problem is not whatever subject you spin about. So if you spin about salvation, the issue is not salvation. If you spin about repentance, not about repentance. If you're spinning about your relationship, whether or not you really truly love the person or not, or you truly believe, or whether or not, if you start spinning about trying to figure out why you're having self-harm thoughts, does it mean that you have some kind of harm spirit in your life? Or do you have some kind of animosity you haven't dealt with? Or so the list is endless. The place where OCDers can gain leverage is to realize whatever subject you have that you spin about, it's not that. It's how you relate to your thoughts. So whatever comes into that container is going to be under the influence of obsession. And when we use the word obsession, and I'll be putting out more and more videos on this stuff, and we'll go into all kinds of areas. We use obsession culturally in a way that's not what it means in OCD. I'm obsessed with this Netflix show. I'm obsessed with this video game. Oh my goodness, I'm obsessed with this coffee place. I'm obsessed with this pizza. We culturally use it in a way that's something I like doing, and I just want to keep doing it. Now it's an understandable thing, but obsession in OCD is we have a disturbance within us. There is something intrusive, a thought that's kind of feels like it's taking over. It's disturbing. And the disturbance is an important word that I use. And it causes us to then try to, in our head, go through some loops to try to figure this out. Or we do some kind of action. And then this creates the OCD cycle. Because then next time it happens, we got to do it again. We got to do it again. We got to do it again. And so I bring out the problem is not the problem, because OCDers are very, very, they stubbornly get rooted in that, no, this is what I need to address. This is what I need to work on. It's about how you relate to your thoughts. And it's working on not living compulsively. If you want to help fast forward your healing and freedom journey with OCD, find out what your compulsions are. What do you find yourself doing? Is it spinning, researching, confessing, cleaning, checking, ruminating, whatever it is? As you begin starving that, you start to realize how much you need that to try to feel better, but yet it keeps you in cycles over and over again. So in chapter 5, I introduce you to the 7 distortions. And these are important. In fact, there's a graphic that I put in the book. You can see here. It shows the 7 distortions. And so this is the journey of getting to the heart. As we're heading down, this is where most OCDers live, right? But they're not getting to these deeper areas. And then once you discover these and you start to work through them, this is what you really need. So you'll see that, and you can begin allowing yourself to work through that. But this is a big threshold. So as you take the journey, I, as your tour guide, am letting you know the transition from chapter 5 into 6 is humility and willingness. I need to learn. So I walk people through, and this subject was actually challenging for me to fit in one chapter. And I found and discovered that I'm going to take a lot of this and it's going to go into some other material. Because I felt like, okay, this stuff over here, I'm going to put this aside. That's going to be for future material. But if you have OCD at work in your life, you are a perfectionist. You are a perfectionist. So that may take some time for that to sink in, but you have perfectionist tendencies. Now, you may not be a high achieving perfectionist, but you have the influence of a thought process that's called just right, but never enough, right? Jessica said, sometimes I feel like I need OCD for dummies. Well, this is kind of, you come to the right place. This is kind of an overview. Crackpot. Did I say crackpot or crockpot? Did I say more of a crock pot, not a microwave? I don't know. I don't remember what I said. But anyways, speaking of just right, the first distortion is that in your thinking, you have a just right, but never enough. Now, there's actually an OCD called just right OCD. But what I want to bring to your attention is just right is in every form of OCD. Because you got to get something just right to feel at peace. So part of the digging down into the deeper root system is understanding how perfectionism influences your life. It puts you under pressure. It keeps you from healing through areas of your life, doesn't let you grieve, doesn't let you process emotions, doesn't let you make mistakes. You wanna freak a perfectionist out. An OCD perfectionist is let them see something that's not just right. Whether it's cleanliness, whether it's their thoughts, whether it's a relationship feeling, how they feel about God, how they feel about the relationship, how they feel about the list is endless. So chapter 7 gets into the second distortion. Yeah, but what if, which is the chronic cycle, is this relationship with doubt and uncertainty. Is constantly cycling in and out, in unfruitful ways with doubt and uncertainty because fear gets into it. And fear wraps its tentacles around doubt and uncertainty. So you stay in a yeah, but what if, and somebody gives you help or they provide some feedback for you. Yeah, but what if I did commit the pardon? Yeah, but what if I am going to hell? What if this will happen? What if I have a deceit? What if I am capable of harming? What if I am, what it goes into a big cycle. This takes some self-awareness of realizing how you relate to doubt and certainty, and you try to fix your doubts with perfect,
absolutely perfect
certainty. And we don't fight uncertainty with perfect certainty. But perfectionism, distortion number 1, number 2, work hand in hand here. So in chapter 8, and I got 23 chapters in this, which actually is short, less chapters than previous books, but the chapters they got more meat to them. This is the chapter of where you're gonna have to fire your interpreter, because the distortion of OCD that really throws things off the rails is the meaning and the interpretation you give your thoughts. So 100%, attention Kmart shoppers, this announcement involves 100% of OCDers have distorted interpretations of their thoughts. The meaning they give what they're feeling or what they're going through goes off into a distraction, meaning that it's not really what they're really struggling with. They're over and lost in some kind of tangent that they feel needs to be uncovered or dissected. So therefore, I walk you through the chapter of recognizing your faulty, toxic interpreter, and it's time to fire your interpreter. You're fired. No arguing, no debating, you're fired. That's it. All right. So many of you have heard some of my teachings on that. You know where I'm headed with that, but this will help you to walk through that. Then in chapter 9, I talk about Chicken Little and the sky is falling, which is one of the distortions is how we react to thoughts and how we overestimate threats. Talk to you about your catastrophic thinking, your alarmist mentality. And more and more throughout all the chapters, I'm weaving through how to help you navigate the fear factor, how to navigate it more effectively in your life. And then in chapter 10 is inflated responsibility. I must do something. You've got this heavy pressure on your shoulders that you cannot have peace unless you resolve this issue completely. Very, very helpful. And I'll use Chicken Little to help you get there. You never realized Chicken Little was going to help bring revelation to your life. And then at chapter 11, I go through the distortion of control, the bondage of control, that every OCDer has control issues. And a lot of and all perfectionists have control issues. And a lot of us as believers are recognizing how much we have control issues. And we attempt to gain control, and control is run by fear. So anyways, okay, so I did say crackpot. Crackpot. Crack pipe. You ever say words and they just start to sound weird to you? So in chapter number 12, as we continue on the tour of the OCD Healing Journey, we have the disturbance of your feelings and your emotions. And so all OCDers, this doesn't take this. I don't get much like pushback in this when it comes to helping an OCDer, because OCDers do provide a lot of pushback. You know, they recognize, I don't know what to do with I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know what's going on. What's my emotions are here, there. One moment I feel this, the next moment I feel that. And I talk about our emotional hangups and how to shift our perspective on how we actually work through emotions, because you actually haven't been given the equipping that you need to work through your emotions. You don't know how to work through them. You don't know how to work through what you're feeling. You don't know how to work through the depression that's going on or the discouragement. You don't know how to work through the stuff to grieve. Or I know for me, I didn't know how to process through handling mistakes or sins or struggles, how to look at it with love, with graciousness. I didn't know how to do any of that. So this sets the stage for understanding the footings of what influences an obsessive and compulsive mind. Now, this is my opinion. This is just my opinion. I feel like this benefits everyone. You know, when I used to teach in a church setting, whether it was going to churches to teach or whether when I was pastoring a church for a season, and I would teach on this stuff, you know, some of these like fear factor things, I was like, everybody needs this. Not just people who have like diagnosed anxiety disorders or people who have panic attacks or bipolar or personality disorders or traumas. All y'all need this. and I don't know. I felt like there were so many times where the church was just like, what? It's like, yeah, we all got these issues. Okay, I'm not saying everyone's OCD. I'm not saying everyone's bipolar. But the principles of healing are for everyone. That's why some of you get this book, you don't even have necessarily OCD, but you're like, I hear you, Mark. I hear you, you know, and these principles can apply to my life and to my journey. Which brings me to chapter 13, OCD life and life transitions. So I get here into this chapter, which is, this chapter could have easily, and maybe at some point, it could happen, it could easily have been its own book, because this is where the rubber meets the road when we talk about mental health. You sit down with a counselor or a therapist or a pastor person, whatever, and you talk about your battleground. At some point, there's usually some kind of question, when did this start? And a lot of what OCDers have in their life, and people with mental health in general, because mental health is multifaceted in what causes it. We're always trying to like have one cause. It's this, and then we're arguing over who's right and who's wrong. But it's multifaceted. You know, there's your family tree, the generations of what's going on. There's your upbringing and how you were raised. It's life experiences, right? It's how you were taught, how you developed, and how you were equipped and not equipped, right? All this leads up to what we become more prone to, or what becomes more of a struggle, right? But a key component is life transitions. These are the moments where we move from a new chapter into another chapter. And what I've recognized as a problem across culture is we don't have transitions anymore. Or I just, in my country, the United States of America, here's the transitions that we offer. 16, you get a license. Maybe around there you get a job. 18, you're now an adult and you can vote. 21, you can drink. That's the best we have to offer. Good luck. And so in this book, I bring out, there's transitions in life that are very, very important. Infancy to being a toddler, young child into becoming a teenager. That is a critical one. Very, very critical one. Not to, infancy to toddler is because infancy to toddler, that whole time is the bond with your parents. And we have to develop the bond. Parenting is about bond first, love first, and then everything gets built out of that. And most of us are like, bond? What do you mean? Ask people about, how they bond, in their upbringing. What? Bond? Do you mean James Bond? And so I bring out those transitions of teenage to adult years, and then adult years into marriage, and then into having children. And it goes on and on. At each point, there needs to be tender, loving care and equipping before and during and after to navigate these seasons, especially when you're moving into adulthood. We're in this problem where we're not taught how to be men. Zero input on how to be something that's very necessary. And women, how to be a woman of God, how to be a man of God. What does that even look like? I mean, you got preached at maybe a couple times a year, but actually walking and knowing how to navigate, how to relate to the opposite sex, how to deal with your sex drive, how to balance a checkbook. Stuff no one's teaching, right? And but that's what we need, because what happens is, and I bring the illustration in the book about race car driving. What makes an effective race car driver is not the ability to push the pedal to the metal. We think, wow, they can drive fast. Anyone can go, for the most part. I mean, some people may, especially if they're driving stick shift. What makes a race car driver effective is anticipating the turns and navigating the turns. That's what makes it. And for most of us, we hit the turns and right? And then we don't know what's going on, what's happening. I don't know. I got to make sure I pray just right. Okay, I got to make sure I just right. I'm going to make sure because we don't realize the crashes and the turns. and you're trying to get up from crashes, and you got your car, it's all dented now, it's all smashed, and you're like, why isn't my car driving correctly? What's going on here? Why? Maybe it's because I'm not saved. Maybe it's because I'm not really in love with this person. Maybe it's because I got to get this clean. Maybe I got to get check. We're spinning, always spinning. There's so much spinning that I have to do. And we don't realize, wow, we haven't been able to navigate the transitions with effective equipping. And many people, their seasons of transition are marked by trauma. And it is very common that OCDers have a lot of unaddressed trauma, because OCD doesn't let you deal with trauma. It doesn't let you deal with it, because your focus is, I got to make sure I get my thoughts right. I got to make sure I deal with these issues. And pain is messy. It takes time to process through. And so many OCDers actually respond to trauma by becoming more intensely obsessive compulsive. So I talk about importance of life transitions. And then 14, I get to the heart of what are you needing? What are you needing to understand in your process? What are you needing to begin meditating on? This is where it really takes slower meditation and processing and journaling and letting God just speak to you. By the way, the audiobook version of this will be out within the next couple weeks. So it takes time for it to get, it's up there, it's in the cloud, but it takes time for it to get fully processed and approved, and then it'll be made available. So waiting on that. I'll let you all know as soon as that is available. But 14 is very, very near and dear to my heart. Chapter 15, I'm going to get into how when you begin starving your compulsions, your withdrawal symptoms kick up. So I talk about the addict factor, and there's some similarities to the OCD process and the addict that is important to understand. There are some areas that don't cross over, but there's a lot of understanding of how addictions, this is an addictive mentality that comes into play with OCD. That's important to understand. Now for me, just so you know, I don't like, you ever read a book and by the end of it, you're kind of like, okay, I think I'm good. And you just kind of like just cruise through the end of the book. So at this point, I'm starting to technically, I'm getting into well, actually, I'm going to show it this way. So you'll see, as you can see, we're on the majority of the book. Okay, this is where I've covered so far, right? You think, oh, okay, we're winding down. We're really still we're still at that, that depth, because chapter 16 is a new response, a battle response to your thoughts. These are very, very important principles on learning to relate to your thoughts in a new way. Very, very. And then I get into 17, and now working on the filter of how you feel like you hear from God. And there's a lot of factors you've heard me talk about in teachings about understanding that God doesn't use anxiety to speak to you. He's not trying to manipulate you with chronic guilt. He's not the author of confusion. And walk through straightening out, helping to cleanse out, so to speak, the filter of what we say is God. And then in chapter 18, I get specifically into religious OCD and scrupulosity. There is special attention I give to that, special attention I give to relationship OCD, just to kind of talk about the nuts and bolts about it, and get you into discerning the religious legalism that's involved in it. And there's a special section too, where I talk about the pattern historically, the movement to psychologists. What happened there? What was that all about? To help bring perspective to it, to what's going on, and where the church can be more effective, because to me, mental health is everybody health. It's not like, oh, that person, they have mental health problems. It's like, who do you think you are? We all need help in this area. So then chapter 19, I get to like root problems. This is more of the heart issue of people who battle scrupulosity and religious OCD. This becomes a very, very helpful place. But again, I feel like anyone can benefit from what I share in there. A dedicated chapter, because this was an area that really brought intense wrestling in my life. And this took a lot of learning, a lot of relearning for me. This is where the journey really took place, was in relationship OCD. And I didn't even know that's what it was. And back when I was, neck deep in it, no one was even mentioning it. There was no Google online you could find it. At least now you can look it up. Man, that would have been nice to look up a few things. Back then, maybe you could find some retreat center up in the mountains, and you have to say a code word and knock 3 times. Maybe you could go in and they'll help you with this weird anxiety issue you have. Some guru's going to walk out. That's about all you could find on Google back then. So then in 21, I spent some time. Okay, when you have OCD, it impacts how you relate to people, and this has been important. It's been important, and in fact, I'll be honest with you. I'd done some prayer in this chapter because those of you that I talked with, we had some issues in the final upload of the script. That when it would get exported, and the software company was like, we've never had this problem ever. We don't know what's going on with this. Everything seems great. It was spitting out this chapter in funky ways. It was like, my goodness, there's a spiritual battle over this. So don't panic. Everyone hold on. But just know when you read chapter 21, your brother from another mother, he went through some trials. And yeah, see, I'll give you an example. I'm using an old, look at this. OCD and conflict. There's actual letters disappearing. Conflict. Yo, you gotta get some help with your conflict. There's no T. And they're like, we don't know what happened. This is crazy, right? And I'm like, well, fix it. Anyway, this gets into how you relate to people, how we deal with being so easily offended, because OCDers get easily offended, right? We get easily hit by stuff. And we can also struggle with post-conversation spinning and guilt, confession, all that kind of stuff. So this chapter gets into the nuts and bolts of that. And so I think that this will be helpful for many, many people, because it's not only how you relate in here, it's also how you relate to the world around you. And that was like next level for me, because while I struggled with relationship OCD, religious OCD, blah, 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 you can name them all, and I've had them, right? And throughout the process and the journey, you see me, you're cracking me up because I just saw the comment here. Mark, you said fully. I did. Did I say fully?
Did I say fully? Are you fully?
Where's fully? Where is fully? Anyways, I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. There was like, I can't look at the comment section. It'll distract me right now. I'm trying to get this thought out. Is that while I had a bunch of OCD struggles and worked through them, big part of the healing is realizing this. I have to learn to heal how I relate to people. I've got to practice graciousness. If you benefit from me just approaching your struggle and your journey with grace and compassion, and that's something people write to me on a regular basis, it's very encouraging. It means a lot to me that you're just echoing and mirroring back to me what I hope I'm conveying to you. It's because the battle of OCD, it brought me to my knees of I've got to learn what love looks like, and I got to practice it. I got to be kind to myself. I got to be kind to others. I also have to be kind to myself that I'm not everyone's fixer. I'm a brother from another mother, but I'm not God. I'm not Jesus. I'm not the solution, but I am a vessel. And I had to learn how to not let other people's problems like weigh on my shoulders in a way where now I'm carrying it in a way I shouldn't be. That's a big, big deal because we teach in church patterns that are burdensome as far as how we relate to other people. So anyways, little tangent on that. Anyways, chapter 22 is a bit of a summary of walking the journey of what has been very, very helpful and what I think is important for you to keep in mind and keep reiterating. It's like kind of a chart because this is a guide and this is a journey. It's kind of a chart of like, here's the signs as you're walking. They're just reminders. And reminders are important because it takes repetition for us to get it. Those of you that listen to my teachings and you go, ooh, I got it. I got what you said there. I got it. That's good. But you still need to get it some more. Because you have to understand that I've been in this for a long time and I still go, ooh, that's a control issue. Or ooh, look at how perfectionism is getting in that, right? As I learn and I get aware, it helps my discernment and I catch things quicker and I respond differently quicker. And that takes learning. It takes learning how to respond to a thought. And you're like disturbed, you're like, oh. And I could go, oh, I've been through this before. I can do it again. Ride the wave, boom. It can happen, but we need those road signs to remind us along the way because we forget. We're forgetters, aren't we? We leak. As soon as something enters us, we're like buckets with holes everywhere. You know, everything's just leaking out, and we need a refill and patch those holes back up, right? So, then I get into, in chapter 23, my daily recommendations. Like these are things that are just, these are routine markers to keep in your tool belt that are important for the journey. And then, as I said, there's questions all throughout. And then at the end, there's two prayers that you can pray along with, or if you get the audio book, you can, Estelle, you like conflict? Yeah, there was some conflict going on in Brother DeJesus when I was seeing conflict. I'm like, yo, somebody fix this thing right now.
Right now.
So anyways, this is a prayer that's there that you can read through. You can pray through yourself for those struggling with OCD. And then this just comes out of my own flavor because certainly in training and just in my own learning and learning about OCD, I actually pray over your biology, right? And just pray that as God begins to work in your thinking patterns, that new pathways begin to form, that new presets would begin to take place. Because as we think and how we approach our thoughts, it affects us so much on a chemical level, right? So I want to pray for those things and pray for those areas. So what'd you think? Did you enjoy this tour? The OCD Healing Journey, getting to the heart of our obsessive and compulsive struggles. You can get the link right at the bottom and help me to push this book into the stratosphere to bring exposure to the subject, help people that are really struggling and don't have support in their journey. Please do me a favor, slam the like button, slam the subscribe button, share this. Because if you appreciated this tour, it was basically about 45 to 50 minutes of a walkthrough tour to give you just kind of an overview. But be sure to subscribe to markdejesus.com. You can also support these videos not only by getting the book, you can also donate to the ministry work. We appreciate those who've become partners that you give on a monthly basis. You can go to the donate page. You can set any amount, doesn't matter. And you can put it on a recurring. And that helps us in our planning and in our processing of future projects that we're working on. And it's just wonderful to be able to share this message with you all and share my journey and also be a help to you. So before you close, Mark, what was it like yesterday when you saw the Amazon rankings? I did mention quickly in the beginning, it's an honor. As I was going as I was going and approaching this book, my wife and I have both felt that there's something that's going to happen with this, But you're like, oh, okay, I don't want to I don't want to be shooting too much and hyping myself up, right? It's like that Norwegian side of me was like, calm down, Mark. Meanwhile, the Puerto Rican side was like, party! And now they're both fighting. But it's just really awesome to see how God's using this, to see it, to shoot up like that in Amazon. Amazing for what I've been through. And the battles and the endurance and as I look back over the last, especially, let's see, my wife and I are going to be married 17 years coming this August 11th, 17 years. And we dated, engaged for, what was it, about a year? And a little over. But anyways, in that time period, to look at the trials, the struggle, and one of the themes I've seen along the whole path that God has spoken to my life, and it's not like I was like, oh, God's saying. A lot of times I didn't know, but when I look back, because sometimes you can look back and you can go, okay, I see some things here, God, that you're saying and doing, and it was really just God saying, just keep taking one step in front of the other. So whether it was doing a session with somebody, whether I'm teaching, in my early days, I was videoing before YouTube was even really a thing. And I was, I'd put DVDs together and I'd be teaching in rooms where there'd be just a handful of people, but I was, and God just keep practicing, just keep doing what you're doing. So that's how I live now. I just keep practicing one step in front of the other. And just keep one step at a time. And hey, my wife is in the comments. Hello, babe. What's going on? Yeah, Katie, your comment was awesome. Your support was awesome. And it was great seeing you in the comment section. You were like just a big cheerleader through the whole process. And so many of you have been an absolute encouragement. So hugs to you all. And thank you all for being a part of this broadcast here. Took an afternoon time, Eastern Standard Time. So I know some of you will probably be at work, depending on where you're at or whatever. But want to be a blessing. Want to be a blessing to you all. So thank you so much. And keep shooting this book out there. Share it. Tell somebody asked, is there a course as well? I'll be announcing what that's going to look like. It's going to take some time. I'm going to bring awareness to the book, be a lot of videos. I'm going to be addressing questions, and I'm going to create an online place where we can have discussion. I can do more focused work with people. I have one-on-ones. I can only do so many one-on-ones. And so I want to have a level where people can have a group level of impact in the materials. And I'm going to use that as a place where I'm going to teach on the OCD Healing Journey specifically as a curriculum. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Be patient. We'll get there. But right now we want to get the book in people's hands. We want to get people reading, get people processing, get people working through this and navigating the beginning parts. Get your copy of the OCD Healing Journey. And it's awesome to be your brother from another mother. And Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, Mark DeJesus, MD, will be back. And keep an eye out because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out to encourage the healing and freedom journey. But in the meantime, I'm out.